I'll call this regular council meeting of the Village of Grand Manan to order at 7:30 p.m. With us for prayer, we have Pastor Robert Griffin.
Our mayor, our council, and all the staff members who work hard and diligently for the Village of Grand Manan. We ask your guidance and blessing on them all as they move forward and make our community such a wonderful place in which to live. We ask all this in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. Opening remarks. It's summer, and it's lovely to see the tourists back on the island, and the tourism seems to be booming, or at least doing quite well given where we are with the price of gas. I think we've all been a little worried about it, so that's really good to see. I'd like to thank everyone who was involved with the organization, both up to and the day of the Canada Day events. It was really great to be out and about and see everything that was happening. And there is an untold amount of work that goes into any activity like that in the lead up and the day of. And I just want to commend everybody. I think it was a very successful day, and hopefully one of many to come. And the final thing I do want to mention as we get started is our ongoing rural plan development. There is an open house next week on Tuesday evening from 6 to 7 and Wednesday 10 to 3 and 6 to 7:30 that evening here at the community center in the gym. If you're interested in the rural plan, want to learn more about it, now is your time for input, so we would encourage everybody to come, and that's up on our Facebook page if anybody's looking for details. So with that, I will move on to item number 4, which is disclosure of conflict of interest.
18.5.
Anyone else? Okay, item number 5, which is adoption of the minutes, the regular council meeting of June 6th and the special meeting of June 28th.
I will make a motion to adopt those minutes.
Heard the motion by Councillor Toll. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Layton. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Additions to the agenda. I have a few bills to add to the agenda under the general operating fund. One is for Go-Go Gymnastics for their summer camp, $14,329. Griffin and Sons Construction for the Dark Harbor Wharf project for $4,600. Home Hardware, the June statement for $1,501.04. And another bill for FX Fireworks, which is the Island Fest fireworks, for $7,500.
I would like to add an economic development report, please.
So that would be 15.6.
I have two I'd like to add.
Okay.
One is under old business, Maple Grove Cemetery.
Yep.
And the other one would be closed session, is Dark Harbor property.
Yep.
Oh, and I have another one.
You're reaching your limit.
I'm getting close. It's Seal Cove Cenotaph maintenance.
Okay, that's property as well?
That would be under properties.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Would anybody like to make a motion to accept that long list of bills plus the 1, 2, 3, 4 agenda items?
I make that motion.
Heard the motion by Councillor Russell. Seconded by Councillor Layton. Question? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 7 is the RCMP. You're up.
To you all that I'm not Tom Stewart, but Haven't done this before, so do you want me to introduce myself?
Sure, we're a pretty formal group, as you can tell
Okay.
from our antics,
Sounds
so,
good.
yes.
And as am I, so I'll fit right in. So I'm Constable Stephanie DeWitt, filling in for Corporal Stewart tonight, just with a few, I guess, statistics and updates about things that have been going on. Apologize if there's anything that's a little different than normal. So I did up the stuff there, or all the numbers and things are going on. So I think we missed last month's meeting. So I do have some statistics for, I believe, May and June is what we'd be giving you. So I have a file count, so I'll do the file count for you guys, but then the kind of the top picks for what I'm going to talk about are a combination of May and June. So files for May, 2021, there were 79 files in May. In 2022, May, there was 86 files. In June 2021, there was 71 files, and June 2022, there were 67 files. So they're fluctuating a bit, but really it's pretty much on par this year with what was going on last year. So some of the, I guess, highlights, we've had 2 impaired drivers charged, 2 7-day suspensions, a prohibited driver charged, 37 traffic-related offenses, 2 assaults, 5 threats files, 4 break-and-enters in May. We didn't have any in June, so, and just 1 sudden death, and still waiting for the coroner's office reports, but nothing suspicious, and 3 mental health calls. I'll talk quickly about the concert that was in Dark Harbor on the weekend. So not that that's to do with May and June, but just to let you guys know that everything went well on our end and there was no calls or anything like that for that concert. So just touch on that a little bit. I was working on the weekend and we didn't have any issues with that down in Dark Harbor. So just so you guys are aware. We did make extra patrols down there, so we did have members working. We rescheduled some of the members to work night shift rather than a day shift. So you will notice we had some reports of the squid fishing on the wharf. We're working with DFO to monitor and patrol the area regularly. So I'm not sure if any of you are aware of that. I think some of you are probably aware of that. So. Couple of things, there's an increased enforcement and presence from public safety regarding ATVs and dirt bikes driving on the roads, driving without their proper gear and documentation and things like that. So you will see an increase. They're going to try and get over more often than they have in the past. So we're working with them now. I don't think from what they were saying is, they weren't working as closely with us as they wanted to, so now we're in communication more with them now, so you'll probably see a presence of that. So we're still having an issue with dirt bikes and ATVs on the highways, taking off, not stopping for us, things like that, ongoing issue. We have increased traffic enforcement, some of you may have noticed out on the roads, but we have increased traffic from tourism. There's more pedestrians and there's more bicycles on the road, so we're just trying to get out and be more present and make sure that no accidents happen or anything like that, or collisions or anybody gets hurt. So you will see us out a little bit more than we have been. So yeah. Guys have any questions?
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah.
What's going on with the squid jigging? What's up with that?
I think there's reports that people are doing it unlawfully. There's issues with boarding boats and damaging lines and things like that. So we've just been working with DFO to try and see what's actually happening and who the suspects are of that.
I
So.
think everybody goes out to jig fishing.
Yeah, there was other issues happening though with the boarding of the boats and things like that for people that they didn't own boats, and I think they were having line issues and hooks and lines and possibly other things like that. So yeah,
And the boats were getting untied, and they
Yeah.
were getting caught up. It- There
Yeah.
was some challenges.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So yeah, so we've been up there a little bit more and yeah, so. And we do have our new member who's been in here a couple of months now, so she's settling in, and Constable Blay, and we'll have a couple out and probably another new one in eventually, so.
I do have a question on road safety, since you brought it up. How is it going this year? Because there's always the infamous posts on Facebook about sharing the roads and bikes and walkers, and how would you rate traffic right now as far as sharing the road?
With the bicycles?
Yeah.
What I've seen, actually, I mean, I've policed in other parts of the province, I think I was in Sussex for over 5 years, but I would say that, it's surprisingly good, so I would say that. There is a little bit of a speeding problem happening right now, but, as far as the bikes and sharing, I think I've been monitoring that and watching that, and I feel like people are being very respectful. I'm sure with the turns and some of the roads, and there's no shoulders on a lot of the roads and things like that, that there's probably places that it gets a little touchy, and especially when you're in the 80 zones, and it's only 3 feet, right? And that, when somebody's driving 80 by you, feels like about 6 inches. So, I mean, yeah, as long as people are giving them, I mean, I always try and give more room than 3 feet, because I know what it's like when somebody drives by me on the highway at 3 feet when I'm standing out there, and it doesn't feel very good because the wind blows you as you're.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
We haven't had any complaints about that. Like, we haven't had any files on that, so, I mean, I can tell you that it's a common thing to have files, but here we haven't been having any calls from people biking, so that's a good sign, because I think people would probably call if there was some close calls, so.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all I have for you, sorry.
All right, old business, 9-1, application for donation, Island Fest, Councillor Russell. Okay. 9-2, Financial Consumer Agency of Canada, Councillor Russell. We don't need, I let you talk again, we don't need a motion. It was just tabled, we don't need to, okay, very good.
In our February meeting, council meeting, we agreed to write a letter to Financial Consumer Agency of Canada expressing our concern about the meeting we had with Scotiabank. And I think I saw a letter signed by the mayor going to FCAC, but I can't find it anywhere. So maybe, did we send the letter? Did we get an update? Did we get a reply? Because they're usually very good at replying. No reply? Oh, that's a surprise. What do we do?
Would you like to make a motion to follow up to that
I
letter?
certainly would like to make that motion. Yes. Thank you.
You heard the motion from Councillor Russell to write a follow-up letter to the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada. I added a couple words to the end of it for you. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Any questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 9-5, Maple Grove Cemetery.
In the May meeting, council, I was absent, but there was a motion passed to have Finance and Properties, and this is the motion to try to lay the groundwork for the Grand Manan Cemetery Association to be formed. There was a meeting held June the 28th at the village office. The attendees were, who they were representing was Laurie Svensson, who was representing Grand Manan Museum Archives, Ava Sturgeon, representing Graham and Ann Museum Archives and the Old Seal Cove Cemetery. I didn't know what else to call it. Claude Daggett, Hillside, Perry Stanley, Spruce Grove, and for many of us, Spruce Grove is across from the deer farm. But that is the name of it, apparently. Kirk Cheney was North Head Anglican, and I called it the Pioneer. It's the old cemetery, North Head Anglican. John Cunningham, Maple Grove, which is known by a lot of people as Bloomishers. And Chris Rayner, Philman Green, and Greg Russell represented the North Head Cemetery and the village. Absent was Nora Lee Moses. And I talked to her. She had company, but she's interested in the two St. Paul cemeteries in Grand Harbor, the one across from the community church and the one up Foster Hill Road. And I also extended an invitation to the Catholic Church. I talked to Leonard Ingalls, and he thought he would likely attend, but he didn't. And he said he would talk to the Catholic Church office in St. John about that. Anyway, I read the summary of the meeting that Chris and I had with Phil Ells, which you all had a copy of a session or two ago. I have it with me if you want me to read it again. This is the notes from, this was a meeting Chris and Greg had with Phil on April 13th, during which he suggests an association be formed. Phil is willing to assist with setting up rules and operating procedures. One important requirement is to have a person who will look after the day-to-day operation of the cemeteries. He is prepared to turn over the cemetery maps soon. He is still working on them and handling questions. We went around the table and each participant gave a summary of their interest in an association. The bottom line is the group is interested in forming an association. The museum group has done a lot of work recording the information from the gravestones on the island. They said they have the space to store the maps that Phil has, and there may be room for the so-called association employee to work in from the museum location. Each participant will prepare a written summary of their requirements and give them to Chris before the next meeting. Phil will be contacted to see if he will prepare a set of rules and/or operating procedures, plus a list of duties for the association employee. I didn't know what else to call that person. The village will check what are the provincial regulations for each cemeteries, especially around forming an association. The next meeting is scheduled for July the 25th at 1 o'clock at the village office. So Esme, if you could book our seats for that day, thank you. And that's the summary of our meeting. So I guess the question is, where do we go from here as a council? I guess what I would suggest is likely a councillor and the CAO would represent the village on this association. You other people here likely have other ideas, so I think it's a good time where this is starting to come up with some ideas and how we're going to go forward with this. So I leave it to the I give it to the table.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Questions? Comments? I'm just wondering, do we have to decide at this point if we would have representation, or we're still, it sounds like it's still very much in the beginning stages. I would assume there would be a couple more meetings before there was any sort of structure put around that, and maybe it would be more appropriate to determine how we, and if we would participate as we get further down the road.
Yes, that's fine, because we agreed, I think, after the meeting, and I get thinking about this, I think we can break this into two pieces. One is the island needs somebody to look after selling of lots, arranging for markers if there's a funeral, the stuff that Phil has done for 30-some or 40 years. I think that's a real immediate requirement because Phil really wants to retire, and he's done a great job. The other one is maintenance. Well, we're all doing our maintenance this year. That can wait, right? So I think the thing would be, maybe at the next meeting, to introduce, let's go at this in two pieces. The immediate problem is to get something going here so that, there's a person, a go-to person with respect to funerals in the cemeteries. I haven't talked to anyone about this. This is just something I've come up with since the meeting. And I just didn't know if someone was interested in sitting in early and being part of the, going through the process rather than maybe someone joining it a few months from now. I'm just throwing that open to see what the team thinks would be the best course of action here.
Councillor Green?
Yeah, we also asked them to bring some type of financial information as to what their anticipated costs per year. If they're doing it with volunteers, how many hours their volunteers are putting in, so we could try to build some type of a business case of what we were looking at for time and resources needed to do it. And any perpetual care funds and stuff that they're accessing, just so we can try to get a rough idea of where we are monetarily before we take too many more giant steps.
Anyone else? Hearing nothing, I'd suggest we proceed with the meeting on the 25th, maybe have a report back then and see how things go, and we might have a better idea as things go along, if that's fair with the rest of the group. See anybody saying no, so we'll assume that it is. Item number 10 is 10-minute open session. I always thought we should have 10-minute break there and we can refill our coffee cups, but we'll move along to new business. 14.1, Department of Transportation, Bradbury Brook, Councillor Russell.
And Councillor Russell will throw the pass over to CEO Chris.
Thanks, Councillor Russell. So I think what Councillor Russell is getting at is when they repaired Bradbury Brook, it's quite a substantial ticket item. So I had requested with the Department of Transportation to see if there were some options there as far as payment goes. And I had a virtual meeting with them last week. It came up in conversation again, and their head of finance was making the recommendation that the department give us 3 years to be able to pay that. Now, I did mention to Councillor Russell that when we redid our capital investment plan, we did account for some extra repairs. We put some money in there for the culvert on Dock Road and Hill Road, but we also threw everything else that we had left over in there for upgrades, so the Bradbury Brook would be covered under that. So there's two options. There's one option to pay it, or there's one option to save some for a rainy day and take advantage of the department's 3-year plan. And there was no mention of interest charges, so I can't answer that if it comes up. But I can ask that question to the department if so wish.
I think we discussed maybe to put forward, it would be biannual payments. Didn't we talk about that for 3 years?
We did. We flipped that over to the treasurer, and because we mentioned, did they want monthly, or what, and it didn't matter to her. So whatever she's comfortable with, I think is the way we should go.
But still take advantage of the full 3-year term, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments? Bradbury Brook is the thoroughfare, just so we're... Yeah.
Yeah. Should we see whether there's going to be interest charge before we make that decision of taking the full 3 years? Like, if it's a high interest charge, maybe we could rethink that.
Once I get the actual proposal from the department, then we can make the decision at that point. But
Do we have a dollar value on that? I don't think I've seen anything on that yet, have I?
as long as you don't quote me. Excess of 600.
Is that the full amount or our half?
thank goodness that was the full amount.
Better, but still not great.
Considering the length of time they spent there and what they've done, I was expecting a bigger bite than that, actually, to tell you the truth. And don't quote me on that.
Okay, so should we table this until we find out about the interest charges and maybe come back to this at the August meeting? Would Councillor Brown, since it was her suggestion, like to make that a motion? Heard the motion by Councillor Brown. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 15.1, Recreation Director's Report. Rec Director Chris Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Summer schedule's in full swing. We had our recreation summer students start last week. That individual is Saul Fitzsimmons. We had actually put out for 2 positions. We only had 1 person apply, so we're a position short, but that's okay. Trace Plan has finalized the plan about our master plan for the community center for the property. Unfortunately, last week my schedule and their schedule didn't line up, so they are scheduled to come this Thursday, July the 7th, to review that plan. I was hoping to have more information for tonight, but we don't. So after they come on the 7th, we'll have a better idea of where things stand. JIL, they are the company out of Farrington that we've been using for quite a while to do our playground installs. They're coming on July 11th to replace the non-galvanized swings in Seal Cove that probably no one knows about other than us. So what they're going to do, the manufacturer came good for it. They didn't even have to let us know what they did, which was great. That's Jean Bet out of Quebec. So they're going to have basically a brand new set of swings that they're taking out. So they've graciously offered to give them to us. We'll have to pay for the install. So we're going to take that set minus the baby swing and move it to Grand Harbor. So we'll just have a little bit of an install fee for that once they're here, but they'll do that all at the same time. So we'll actually take out one of the older sets in Grand Harbor, put the new set in, and be a great addition for that. While we're in Grand Harbor, the net, the softball team's calling it our Green Monster net, has finally arrived. The poles are up there. We're just waiting for Dutchman to get a little break in their schedule to come in to be able to plant the poles. So basically what's going to be, we're going to have a 60-foot wide net along the outfield fence, 30 feet high, to protect the neighbor's property. So hopefully we'll get that up before someone loses a new patio door or a window or something. But Seal Cove ball field, Dutchman spend a fair bit of time down there. They've completely gone around the right field, left field fence, the outfield fence, made about a 10-foot swath, clear all the bushes, which looks great. They spent a little bit of time on the infield, redoing that with their new machine. Our crew went down after they were done and used our smaller groomer machine, and it's got it looking pretty good. Unfortunately, things get busy other places, and they haven't been able to spend the time to go back, but now that the summer students started and things are slowed down a little bit, they'll be able to spend a little bit more time down there. Hopefully, softball would still like to get down there a few days a week, and there's still talk about the possibility of having maybe a men's team to play the high school team. That way there, last year they threw the high school team together September. Kids never played together all year, which was a bit of a disadvantage. So I think there's a group of guys that would like to get together and maybe play them once a week just to give them a little bit of game experience before going into their fall season. Castelia, some of you may have noticed today, we got a brand new scoreboard that went up. The crew worked with Howard, got the old one down, changed the posts, got some new holes dug, some cements, new 4x4s, and we had a new sign made up by McDeckles last summer, so we finally got that put up. We had to make some numbers, so that looks great up there. I'm a bit nervous to leave it. I think I had them put it in a way that we're able to take that down, because I think we all know what the Northeast in our winter season is like around the Castelia ball field. The last one, we had a big wind and it actually snapped the 4x4 post right off, so it obviously it gets quite a lot of wind. So to prevent that from happening, we'll be able to just take that sign down at the end of every year and put it back in the building and store it. We've got a busy schedule coming up with the arena, so we're gonna have to take our indoor equipment out. During Island Fest, we've got a car show going in there, as well as Science East is coming for the festival, but they would like to come a couple days early, and they have a big 30 or 40-foot planetarium that they want to set up inside and be able to have that to people to view leading up to the festival, which is great. We have a fundraiser at the curling rink. They're looking at doing, I don't know if some of you remember, probably 3 years ago now, they had that fishing trade show where they brought in different groups from the mainland, diesel mechanics and engines and all that stuff. And so they're talking about doing that again. So we'll make that space available for them. The community market pavilion that's been talked back and forth, that's finally looking like it's going to be able to go ahead. The last hiccup we had with that was trying to find out from the engineers exactly where the geothermal pipes went from the building out to the field. We had to bring in our technical expert, Kurt Cheney, to help with that. He reached out to ADI. They still had the drawings, digital drawings on file. We got copies of those, and it looks like the shelter won't interfere with those pipes, so that should be able to proceed. I think that was all on my list. Is there any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Brown?
Yes, I'm just wondering, Chris, can I have a look at maybe where they're gonna put that pavilion?
Yep.
Because I just wanna see where it's gonna be because of where we wanna put our stage, and I just wanna make sure that it's gonna work,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yep.
Before it, gets built.
Yep, absolutely. I
Okay.
can forward you a copy of the plan where it's supposed to go.
Okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else? Thanks, Chris. 15.2, Transportation Committee Report. Councillor Layton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, fellow councillors. I guess I'll start out with our Ferry Partnership Committee meeting we just had last week. It was our first meeting with the Director of Marina Operations, Paul McDonald, so it's good that he was sitting here in the room. That's one of the best partnerships that we have in the village. I think everybody gets in the room and sits down and have a conversation. My voice is a little weak today. I guess as far as the ferry is concerned, our major goal right now is to get a little more service in our shoulder seasons. We've been looking at Coastal Transport's redoing their web page, and hopefully they're going to add a little extra to when, like, the reservation system doesn't really track the people that actually want to make a reservation. It just tracks the reservation that was bought. So it would give us more of an indication of how many people are traveling, how many people want to travel and can't travel. And maybe that'll give us a little more ammunition to get the minister to add some more trips on. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave that, I think. And I'm going to move right into the airport, which is it's a lot, I guess. It's a lot. It's changed so many times, it's hard to even speak about it. But last time we sat here, we were looking at an environmental impact study. We were going to put the airport off. It's not going to happen this year, but with a little creative engineering and collaboration with a lot of different people, we're just going to move the airport over a little bit. And this gets away from the wetlands. So what we're going to basically do, it's a two-phase, it's a two-phase project. The first phase this year, hopefully our tenders will go out this month. I won't say next week, but this month for the first phase, which should be putting asphalt on the ground, basically. The second phase would be next year. We're going to go through that environmental impact study, I suspect, and then we'll work through that. But in the meantime, we're going to get pavement on the ground this year, hopefully, and we'll deal with that down the road. But I don't know. It looks like a go-ahead to me, but things change every day with that. So, but Brunswick's been good, and hopefully that'll move forward. Is there anything about that, Chris, you want to add? You can go on forever, I'm sure, but
I can, but I won't.
okay. No.
But, yeah, I mean, it has been a bit of a roller coaster ride. We had a great meeting with the department, thanks to Andrea, our MLA, who hooked us up after we had a heartbreaking email saying we had to have the full EIA. Andrea got involved. We had a meeting. It looked like it was going ahead very well. And then, so much as even this afternoon, there was a letter that came saying, sorry, but you need to have the full environmental impact assessment done. So what happened, even within their own department, they're not communicating. So they didn't realize that one department said, the best thing to do is to do the two-phased approach, because what we've got is all the work that we're proposing in phase one all falls within the 30-meter buffer of the wetland, which in the 30-meter buffer of the wetland only requires the Wawa permit. So the Wawa permit has been applied for. Phase two, which is only the gravel work from the southern shoulder of the runway towards the wetland, falls actually within the wetland. So they're proposing to leave that because we have to do, Councilor Layton, correct me if I'm wrong, 20-to-1 slope from the edge of the asphalt towards the wetland as far as the requirements from Navigation Canada. So there was an email that came after supper tonight, and the Brunswick Engineering has sent a fresh set of drawings to the Department of Environment showing the two phases, showing the refurbishment, showing the elevations. Basically, they originally were going to bring the whole thing up a couple feet, but now what they're going to do just to save the elevation, which gives you the width, is they're just going to take out the humps in the low spots, make it smooth, push everything to the north, like Councillor Layton said, get rid of some granite humps, and hopefully come the end of October we'll have a completely refurbished runway minus that southern edge of gravel.
Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So that sort of sounds like when we get that all done, that 20-to-1 slope is a requirement for an airport. Does that mean the EIA is sort of a paper exercise that it would have to be granted that to maintain that slope?
It is a paper exercise. And the fact that the wetland was man-made after the airport was built is playing a bit of a factor in there as well as to why that was allowed to happen. And now we're left with the outcome of that. So they got to give us a little bit of a break there. So there may be, at the end of the day, there may just be a little bit of wetland compensation, which means if the length of that thing's 3,000 feet, if we encroach it by 4 or 5 meters, we get a square meter of amount of space that we're going to take up. So somewhere on that property away from the airport, we'll create that same amount of volume for another wetland somewhere else. So paper and money.
And now the rest of your report.
And now the rest. I guess we're just going to talk about our roads here for a second. We've had a few meetings lately, a lot of stuff going on with as far as that aspect goes. We've made a good friend, Jules Michaud. He's the executive director of operations. He's key. He's instrumental in everything that's going on with our little island. He's very involved. He's very engaged. He's got the right people at the table. He even appointed a liaison, I guess, between the province and the village of Grand Manan. He's going to be our guy that Chris talks to every day, but he's a retired district engineer from this area. He knows the roads, he knows the process, he knows the back roads of how the government works, and it's a really positive step that we have that collaboration with the province. So moving on with that, we're our engineers, Silk Steve's gonna be here for the month of July. We're moving ahead with our vegetation removal and drainage. What we're gonna do is the village owns 66-foot right-of-way, basically, on most of the streets, not all the streets. The secondary streets chip sealed. The ones that we have 66-foot right-of-way on, we're gonna clear them off. The surveyor's gonna come, they're gonna put a line, and it's gonna get cleared. It helps with visibility, it helps with ice, or it helps with the sun getting on the road faster, animal strikes, all that different stuff. It's just safety issues more than anything. But we're not gonna go cut down grandma's old tree that's been there 150 years, you know what I mean? But we're gonna mark everything that we're gonna cut, and then you can come in and talk to Esme about your problems, right? But if there's a problem, I think the village is more than willing to work through that, right? But I mean, if it's a safety issue, it's probably gonna come out. But on the smaller secondary side roads, like we'll just say Fox Farm Road, for instance, I mean, there's no ditch, there's no trees, there's no maintenance really to do with that. So our biggest bet is like the back road, Dark Harbor Road, the Whistle Road, all those ones. So hopefully that'll take place this month and be ready for the proposal to start or get out there. And I think that's about all I'm allowed to say. But I'm really happy about our Alan Kerr coming on board with this and working through this. So it's huge, and it's going to make Chris's life a lot easier working through this, and it's just a positive direction for improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Layton. Councillor Russell, you have a question?
A couple of questions, I guess. One, you talked about moving the airport a little bit. Is the footprint, like the space of landing, is it going to stay the same? Is it going to be shorter?
It's basically the runway it's going to be exactly parallel to the runway, right beside it, maybe
Okay,
just, I don't know the numbers, right? But we'll say the center of the airport might be the edge of the new airport.
Okay.
You know, just enough over so we can get away
Okay.
from the buffer zone and move forward. But it's an easy fix. I don't know why we've been spinning our wheels here for months, but this is.
a second query. We're entertaining doing our brushing, right? When I was at NB Power, we had a tri-agency agreement with well, back then it was NB Power, NBTEL, and Highways, where we cost shared all this brush clearing. Have you been in contact with NB Power and Bell Alliant? Because they have as much interest in those right-of-ways being cleared as we do.
My understanding is it's our gig, but
You might want to follow up on that, because for years they've participated, the three entities have participated. One time there was a formal agreement.
wasn't that discussed at some point? I can't remember where we went with that.
It might be
It
worth
was brought
following
up
up on.
at-
Of course, they're only interested in one side, typically,
Yep,
because
exactly.
most polls are joint. But still,
that's-
if we get contributions from those two,
Well, if
it
we
would
can
be
get,
significant.
that would be great. Absolutely,
Yeah, I think it
absolutely.
needs follow-up. Okay?
Any other questions? Comments? Thank you, Councillor Layton. You got off easy. Arts and Culture Report 15.3, Councillor Brown.
It's been a while since I've had a report. Anyway, less than 4 weeks before the first Island Fest begins, there's been a lot of planning, and it looks like things are coming together. It's great to see the island participating. To name a few, Jennifer O'Neill is doing a show and shine. The Anchorage is putting on a lobster supper. The cheer team is doing a run. A large market is being planned, as well as Dean and Heidi are doing a poker run. There will also be musical events, and Science East will be here as well. Looks like it's a go for the food trucks. Yay, that's been a racket. There will be lots going on that weekend, and we will be sending a mail out with a list of activities, dates, and times. The next 3 weeks is where the committee will pull together to lighten the load. If anyone has any ideas, They will be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Any questions? You got off really, really easy tonight. Finance and Property Committee report, Councillor Russell.
This will be short, believe it or not. F&P met, I call it F&P, met on June 27th. We discussed 16 items, and 11 of them were related to properties. We seem to be into quite a few property things going on, and quite a few of those will be dealt with in closed session, so we'll get to most of those. 2021 financial statements, Beers Neil Rep, I think Sophie, is it? Will be here on July the 11th at noon to review the 2021 financial statements and answer any questions that we may have. The asset management report, the items identified in the 2022 are being actioned, ongoing, and just a reminder, all these items were budgeted, right? So there's no issues for right now unless we find some surprises when we go there. Risk management, included in our insurance premium is we have access to the risk management team, and they've been trying to get here for a couple of years to review our assets, but Chris says now hope to be here this fall to do a risk management review of our assets to ensure that we have maximum safety for all users, which is public and volunteers and employees. So I'm looking forward to that. End of report.
Thank you, Councillor Russell. Any questions? Okay, you were easy too. 15.5 is a Health Committee report, which is me, and this is more of a pre-report than a committee report. Just a bit of an update that we have a doctor who's leaving or has left the island, so we are down a physician, or will be down a physician as of this summer. We've reached out to Horizon. We've got a meeting scheduled next week with their physician recruitment advisor and the clinical academic head of family medicine, which is quite a mouthful. So just to talk about if there's anything as a municipality we can do to help with the recruitment efforts. I think watching the news, we all know what an uphill battle it is to recruit healthcare of any kind. And coming to a rural, remote community, it makes it that much more of a challenge. So we have that on our agenda, but just so people are aware that, well, we're aware and that we're going to be working on it. In the winter, I think it was the end of February, Minister Shepherd was on the island, and she talked at that point, my understanding is maybe is looking at a pilot project potentially of a clinical approach versus a specific family doctor, so that you wouldn't necessarily have Dr. whoever as your doctor, but they would work in a collaborative type of format, so that, which would hopefully reduce some of the delays people have for prescription refills or getting a doctor's appointment, or some of those routine things that, you know, we hear people have issues getting in to get to see their family doctor, or their family doctor has left and they no longer have one. Graham and Ann seems like an ideal place to pilot that, and this may be an opportune time to reach out and see if there is an interest in going down that road. So if there is, I would suggest that maybe we would make a motion to reach out to the minister again to see if that's something we want to pursue and what that could look like for Graham and Ann. So that's my very brief report. Any questions? Councillor Turner?
I would make a motion that we reach out to Minister Shepherd about pursuing that pilot project.
You heard the motion from Councillor Turner. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. 15.6 is Economic Development Committee. Councillor Turner.
This is more just an update as opposed to a full report. As you can probably imagine, economic development has pretty much been about the bank. There haven't been a lot of other things going on as far as things that we needed to look into right at the moment. We are having a meeting next Monday night with businesses that would be involved in, like, needing deposit services or wanting ATM services, that type of thing. And the reason we're doing that is because we have some options we're looking into, but we want to make sure that they address the real issues. We don't want to make assumptions that this is what people need. That's not what we're here for, but it's easy to do. So we're going to reach out and ask any business owners that, even if it's not those two issues, to bring to the table basically what their main concerns are, to make sure that whatever route we go down, we can address as many of those as possible. It's going to look different. I mean, it's not going to be, here's another bank or whatever, but I think we have some ideas and some possibilities that can really sort of address the more urgent issues. So, but it is important that we find out, identify what really is important to the business owners. We know that there are also issues for individuals. This specific part is just specifically about businesses, really. And that's not to exclude anybody, it's just that this is one section of what we're trying to do. So that's about it. We'll see how that goes and hopefully have a report.
Any questions for Councillor Turner? Councillor
Could
Russell?
you, when was the meeting again? I missed that.
Seven, maybe? I
Is it
think it's 7.
7?
Yep.
Here?
Yep.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, item 16.1, bylaws. The bylaw number 56-22, the bylaw to amend bylaw 52-19, the rural plan bylaw. Councillor Greenlaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is the third reading. Bylaw number 56-22, bylaw to amend bylaw 52-19, the rural plan bylaw.
Yay? I feel like we should all applaud.
I
right
know,
now. Councillor Green?
Okay, I just want to confirm that the development agreement, that's all been finalized.
We have a filed copy of the development agreement signed by the landowner, the owners of Dutchman Contract, the mayor, and the clerk, and our seal.
We could all, yeah. Yahoo! Okay, I would move then that we accept third reading of bylaw 56-22 and that it be enacted and filed with the appropriate government agencies.
You heard the motion by Councillor Green. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. Yay. That one took a while. Item number 17.1, general approval to pay the following invoices from the general operating fund. This is where I need my glasses. Dexter Machining for recreation mowers, $2,236.73. Fireworks FX Inc. for the Canada Day fireworks, $7,500. Beers Neal, final year audit fee, $15,525. MG Fisheries for the Dark Harbor contract, $1,564. The SD Group for the Village Flags, $5,244. Go-Go Gymnastics, $14,329. That's for summer camp, and that's a money in, money out, so they've raised money to cover that. Griffin and Sons Construction Limited for the Dark Harbor Wharf Project, $4,600. Home Hardware, the June statement for $1,501.04. And FX Fireworks for the Island Fest fireworks for $7,500. Please don't make me reread that list.
I would make a motion that we
pay those invoices.
You heard the motion by Counselor Greenlaw. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Toll. Question? Counselor
Question?
Russell?
Yes, for example, the Dark Harbor contract, MG Fisheries, are all these completed? All the work is completed and it's been accepted by the village as what was asked for? Yeah, and the Griffin one at Dark Harbor? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I just assumed that. So there's no, the only partial payment then likely is the Beers Neal, which is an ongoing? Yeah.
Yep.
And the rest are all?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Counselor Layton?
Well, that's my fault. I ordered too many by mistake. But they are expensive. They're $126 each. They look nice and $126. They look great. The village ones, yep, the new ones. I don't think we'll ever run out. We're good.
Counselor Russell?
Yes, all these too are in the budget, correct? I mean, they're covered with budget item numbers?
Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
okay, thank you, yeah.
All right, any other questions? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. 17.2, approval to pay from the General Capital Fund from Brunswick Engineering, the airport design, $18,716.25. Heard the motion by Counselor Layton. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Counselor Brown. Question? Counselor Russell?
Maybe someone could refer, is there was that a contract or is that a fixed amount? Is that, and this is just a partial, is there
It's all part of the airport project.
okay, it's blended in that,
It's in the design
yeah.
costs.
But
Yep.
do we know what the design costs are or expect to be?
We do. We have a budget for it
Okay,
that we submitted, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. Item number 18 is closed session where we have several things, because we added a couple. We have property surplus, we have financial rates, personnel, CAO position, financial banking options, we have a property acquisition, property at Dark Harbor, and property for the Seal Cove Cenotaph. Would somebody like to move us into closed session? You heard the motion by Counselor Greenlaw. Seconder? Seconded by Counselor Toll. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carried. I'll recall this regular council meeting of the Village of Grand Manan to order. We were in closed session to discuss a number of property and financial issues. 18.1 is a piece of surplus property.
I make a motion that the CAO follow up with a request for proposals for the surplus property.
You heard the motion from Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Greenlaw. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. 18.2 was financial rates.
I make a motion that the revised rate schedule for the business center be implemented.
You heard the motion by Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder? I'll second that. Seconded by Councillor Toll. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Motion carried. 18.3 was withdrawn. 18.4 is financial banking options.
I make a motion that the village meet with the bank that sent a proposal for new banking arrangements.
You heard the motion by Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Green. Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? One nay, motion carried. 18.5 was property acquisition, and we were going to direct the CAO to take an action on that. 18.6 is property Dark Harbor.
I make a motion that the CAO work with our legal team to determine the village's options with Dark Harbor.
You heard the motion by Councillor Russell. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Brown. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried. I'm losing it. It's good. We're down to 18.7, which is property Seal Cove Cenotaph. And I understand we're going to direct the staff to deal with some of the upkeep there. I believe that brings us to the end of the meeting. The next regular council meeting will be August 8th here at the Community Center at 7:30 p.m. I'd like to thank our people doing the TV cameras and out back for sticking with us through a very long closed session. So thank you. And do we have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councillor Greenlaw. Thank you.